Welcome to the Modern Manager. I am Mamie Canfor-Stewart, and I'm so glad you joined me today to talk about the difference between feeling unsafe and uncomfortable in the workplace. Now, these two feelings can often be conflated, and it is so important to distinguish when we're feeling uncomfortable in a moment and when we're truly feeling unsafe, where we don't feel like we can share ideas, we don't feel like we can identify risks, we don't feel like we can take steps and make mistakes. Those are two very different things. And so I'm going to be breaking down today how to understand unsafe and uncomfortable so that you can build a thriving workplace culture. Now, before we get into that, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I share new episodes and tips and tricks for managers every week. One of the things that makes this so challenging is that the feeling of being uncomfortable and the feeling of being unsafe often manifest in similar ways in our bodies. You might start feeling heat in your cheeks or in your head. Your hands might get sweaty, or you might start fidgeting with your fingers. You might feel a pit in your stomach. All of those sensations are telling you to be concerned in this moment. But sometimes you're feeling unsafe, and that's a big problem. And sometimes you're just feeling uncomfortable. And if you lean into the feeling of uncomfortable and you misinterpret it as being unsafe, it can lead to some negative consequences down the road. So that's why it's really important to be able to distinguish, is what I'm feeling unsafe or is what I'm feeling uncomfortable? So to help us understand these differences, I'm going to unpack 4 different ways to understand and to think about psychologically unsafe versus simply uncomfortable. First up is the nature of the experience. So what is causing these feelings? Well, when it comes to feeling uncomfortable, this is the temporary experience of being unsure or feeling a little awkward because it's a new situation or you're being challenged. And in those cases, what's happening is it's a specific moment that has caused this emotion to come. And once you're past that moment, those feelings will start to dissipate. So for example, this might be when you are receiving feedback and it's making you feel super uncomfortable because it's hard to hear and you're embarrassed by it. You just don't like it. But once that session's over, those feelings eventually start to dissipate as you process what you heard. Or maybe you've been handed a new responsibility and you are super nervous about whether or not you can do this. And so you're feeling really uncomfortable with this new assignment. But once that situation passes and you have some time to think about it, you start to gain a little confidence that you can do this, or it's going to be a good learning opportunity for you. And you can find the right support to get through it. Now, when it comes to feeling psychologically unsafe, this is a chronic experience of anxiety and fear, where you know that if you take certain behaviors, if you flag something as a potential risk, if you share an idea, there are going to be some negative repercussions for speaking up, for making a mistake. And this is not just isolated to a singular moment. This is a cultural phenomenon. It's also not contained to something that is momentary and will pass. This is going to be with you day in and day out at maybe varying levels, but it's part of the culture. And that feeling of lack of safety doesn't just go away because the workday ended. Next up, we have the cause. Now, when it comes to feeling uncomfortable, the cause is usually related to being pushed or challenged or stretched in some way, where we are being asked to move out of our comfort zone, which makes us feel uncomfortable. Now, when it comes to psychological unsafetyness, what we're talking about here is really other people's behaviors towards us that are intimidating, discriminatory, negative. Really, it's how they're making us feel in a way that is diminishing us. So, for example, this might be your boss who is constantly ignoring and dismissing your ideas. Or this could be your team members who, when you make a mistake on something, instead of supporting you to figure out how to do it better, they take you off the project or kind of relegate you to some smaller portion because they don't really want to deal with you anymore. Those kinds of behaviors create an environment where we don't feel safe to speak up, to take risks, to make mistakes, to share ideas. And that is what is the cause, is really other people's behaviors that are impacting us rather than us being stretched to grow in new ways. And that leads to the third difference, the impact on performance and growth. With being uncomfortable, that is really a positive situation that will lead to better performance and growth in the future. When you are pushed out of your comfort zone, when you are challenged, when you are given feedback that helps you build self-awareness, you then can make choices about how you want to show up, about how you want to grow, that ultimately help you become a better performer and a better colleague. You have to be pushed to be uncomfortable. You have to be pushed out of your comfort zone if you want to grow and you want to get better. The exact opposite is true with feeling psychologically unsafe. Instead of being pushed to get better, with psychologically unsafe feelings, you hold back. You inhibit yourself from learning and growing because you don't share ideas, you don't take risks, you don't make mistakes that you can learn from. And so that ultimately hinders your growth, hinders your contributions to the team, and hinders performance. Next up, we have the individual versus the systemic experience. So with feeling uncomfortable, that is usually an individual experience. I'm getting feedback, and so I'm feeling uncomfortable. I'm being asked to take on a new challenge, so I'm feeling uncomfortable. I am taking a risk with this project, and so I'm feeling uncomfortable. But in those cases, it doesn't go beyond me as an individual. And what makes me feel uncomfortable may not be the same things that make you feel uncomfortable. With a psychologically unsafe environment, that affects everyone on the team. So we're all experiencing a sense of psychological unsafety. We're all concerned that if we raise our hand for something and it doesn't go well, that we're going to feel the negative repercussions of that. Now, there might be people on the team who experience it more or less, depending on lots of factors, but it's not directly only at one person. It's really the entire environment that is plagued by the sense of psychological unsafety. At the end of the day, it is so important to distinguish between you're feeling unsafe and you're feeling uncomfortable. If you're feeling uncomfortable, that's okay. It is going to enable you to grow and perform and be better in the future. If you're feeling unsafe, it is going to hinder you and hold you back. So the next time that you start feeling that sensation in your body where you're feeling nervous and you're getting that pit in your stomach or your hands are getting sweaty and you're feeling unsafe, pause for a second and just consider, am I really feeling unsafe right now? Are there negative repercussions that are going to come out of this if I say the wrong thing or I do the wrong thing? And so I really need to be holding back because I'm really unsafe? Or is what I'm experiencing truly discomfort? Am I being pushed? Am I being challenged? Am I hearing feedback that I don't like? But ultimately, is it making me unsafe? It's just pushing me out of my comfort zone and trying to help me become more self-aware. If what we're experiencing is discomfort, this is an opportunity for us to lean in, to recognize this feeling is temporary and that this situation is ultimately going to help me grow, it's going to help me perform better, and it's giving me an opportunity to learn. And when we can embrace that feeling of discomfort and recognize that it is part of our job, it's part of life to have feelings of discomfort and to lean into those, we can foster an environment where we can learn and grow and where our team members can learn and grow. For more tips on how to build a psychologically safe workplace and for all things on how to be an effective manager, go to the website, themodernmanager.com. And also don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you found this video helpful and check out my latest video.